At least 9 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli forces in the occupied West Bank. The Israeli military has raided multiple locations, including Nour Shams refugee camp in Tulkarem. At least 5 Palestinians died during armed confrontations. At least 73 Palestinians have been killed and 1,300 injured by Israeli forces or settlers since October the 7th. Nida Ibrahim joins us now live from Ramallah. So is the siege, another siege in the West Bank, turning bloody now?
Yes, and a new word that Palestinians haven't heard in years, a curfew at the Nour Shams refugee camp, where medics are finding it difficult to reach the wounded and possibly the dead. So we're hearing from locals inside the camp that they're unable to count the dead. So far, the Palestinian Health Ministry has announced that 5 Palestinians have been killed in Tulkarem area alone after Israeli forces raided the refugee camp since the early hours of Monday. They've been turning homes into military posts, destroying roads. There's no electricity, no water inside the camp. So we're talking about basically a total isolation of the camp, where Palestinians are still trying to get to their dead and to their wounded. So we are expecting the numbers to rise as we speak now, and as Palestinian medics are trying to get inside the camp and assess the situation. Let's not forget that this is not the first time that the Israeli forces raid the Nour Shams refugee camp, because we've seen them do so before. We were there just in late September, and we've seen the Israeli forces bulldozing also through roads. There are dozens of armed Palestinians there in the camp, and we believe that Israeli forces are trying to target them. But as we've seen from early pictures from within the refugee camp itself, some of those who were killed were not involved in the fighting. A 16-year-old has been shot, and when his father tried to help him, he was shot as well. The father made it, but the son did not. So we're talking about a very tense situation that is unfolding now in Tulkarem.
And Nida, talk to us about how the anger, the protests are shaping up across the West Bank and beyond.
Well, let's not forget that Palestinians here in the occupied West Bank need Israeli military permits that are almost impossible to get, to be able to see their fellow Palestinians in the besieged Gaza Strip. So they are geographically separated, and separated by the fact that they fall under one military occupation. So you can imagine the amount of frustration. Some people have families in Gaza, and they cannot even get a chance to check on them, to call them, because of the problems and the communications issues that are facing Palestinians there. So there's a lot of anger. But also, you talk about Palestinians here in the occupied West Bank, whose situation is probably a little bit better, because when we talk about the death toll, yes, the death toll in the occupied West Bank is less than that in the besieged Gaza Strip. But when you talk about the Israeli measures, they are so similar. You're talking about Palestinians who are saying that their lands are being taken, that they're being targeted with an excessive use of force by Israeli forces. So there's a lot of similarities between the way the Israeli forces are dealing with the Palestinians in their different geographical locations. So you can imagine how that makes Palestinians feel. And also, since the beginning of the war, Palestinians would tell you that the amount of arrests of Palestinians have tripled. The amount of killings has increased. 73 Palestinians so far have been killed just since October the 7th. And we've been already saying before this current escalation that the Palestinians have had their deadliest year here in the occupied West Bank in 2 decades. So you can imagine that 70 people or more have been killed just in a span of less than 2 weeks. And in the whole year, we had 200 Palestinians. So we are looking at an intense situation. And with the raids that are ongoing in different locations in the occupied West Bank, tension is still mounting.
All right, thanks so much, Nida Ibrahim, reporting to us from the West Bank.